we ran into a bunch of issues. We had boost leaks. The throttle body gasket was leaking. The upper intake manifold was leaking. Idle air control valve was leaking. The most we made on the dyno, I think, was 14.5 pounds. That has now been solved. I replaced all these gaskets, so that's good to go. As you guys saw, it was chewing through oil like crazy. So the valve stem seals on both sides, intake and exhaust, have been replaced. And since it was torn apart, I figured, you know, let me just go ahead and do all the maintenance that we need to do before we throw it back on the dyno. That way it's running healthy and we get it good numbers. So I will, probably in the next couple videos, we'll show that as well. We're replacing the water pump, front main seal. Obviously we did the cam seals. And we're gonna do also the oil cooler seal. Those are leaking. So this thing, it just wasn't running healthy, and I wanted to make sure that when we went back up there, it was, you know, running as best as it could. So I think for now, while we wait for these parts, I did get something else in the mail, so I'm excited to show you guys that. All right. These are just some Supra caliper stickers. And the reason we got those is we got some new brake calipers. We got some big brakes. So the ones on the, I believe 95s and below from Japan, all came with the 2-pot pistons. Mine happens to be a 95, so it only came with the 2. So we're going to be upgrading to these guys here. And you can still order these from the factory. So these are Supra calipers. They're not painted, obviously. So we're going to paint them. Stoptech brake pads. And these Stoptech racing rotors. Show you what they look like here. So these are going to be a big upgrade from what I have in there now. Let's see about getting these calipers taped up and ready for paint. Pretty dry vinyl here. High-top vinyl. It looks good. I wish this vinyl wasn't so shiny. I would prefer it matte. I guess it doesn't really come through. I guess all that's left to do is get them thrown on the car, so we'll go ahead and do that next. All right, guys, so here's where we're at. Just taking off the 17 mils back here. So you got that one, and then there's one down there. And that'll release all this, and then we'll try to maybe hold up the line just so we don't get too much air in the system. Matt's gonna be here in a little bit, so we'll be working on that together, and we should be able to bleed the system pretty well. But I guess let's keep going for now. There's the one we got here. An inch, 3/4 inches bigger. So it looks like the TT brakes are about 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches, somewhere around there, wider. That should go somewhere. Alright, there they are. Man, they look really good. Got beat up a little bit on the way in, but not too bad. I think we are good to move on to the other side. Once we do that, we'll throw the wheels on and see how it looks. Alright guys, I just wrapped up the brake setup. I still gotta bleed the brakes, but Matt's coming over a little later, so we'll bleed the brakes then. But here's the setup we got. So I just had to cut that little guide pin off on both of them. They're about 1 inch bigger than the ones I had. Calipers are way bigger. They're 4-piston rather than a 2-piston, and they're just bigger overall. My current wheel setup doesn't fit, so I may have to get some spacers for now. But here's the other side. We're far from being done on this car. There's still, there we go. So that's all set up right there. So I think on the next video, we'll go ahead and try to wrap all this up, clean all this up, clean up the oil pump, replace the front main seal. We're gonna replace the water pump as well. Cam seals are in, cam gears are in. And I think once we've got that stuff done, oh, we're also doing the oil cooler. So you guys probably can't see it right now, but where your oil filter goes, there's a little oil cooler underneath there. There's a couple O-rings that go in there, and unfortunately mine is leaking just like everything else on this car. Get the first spark plug out and we'll do the first 4 valves. All right guys, here we go on our first drive. We're just gonna take it easy and see how she does. Something doesn't sound good. Listen to that noise. Oh, that doesn't sound good at all. I really don't know what that is.